Today, I'm going to New York City and getting stuck in the Lincoln Tunnel to try Vandoren's new $500 carbon fiber ligature. Now, this thing made quite the splash when it launched back in May. With only a small number being produced in its initial run, it certainly turned some heads with its high price tag that reflected its limited nature. However, in the time since its release, nearly everyone I've talked to who has tried one has only had good things to say. Well, I'm finally going to see what all the hype is about, and to see how it compares to its similarly shaped cousins, the 5 MO ligatures. So, let me do a quick recording, and then we'll see how they sound. Now look, up until this point, I had previously refrained from doing any kind of ligature-based content. There's a few different reasons for this. To start with, I can already see the comments. All of them sound the same. Ligatures don't make a difference. You can sound just as good with a shoelace. Have you seen Michael Lowenstern's video? And so with that in mind, I just want to say that I basically agree with all of those sentiments, at least on some level. The impact of a ligature is very small, and absolutely no ligature in the world is going to fix your biggest problems. You're not suddenly going to be able to shred just because you changed ligatures, or mouthpieces, or reeds, or instruments, for that matter. But I do genuinely believe that the ligature is going to change how your setup feels and sounds, at least on your side of the instrument. Whether or not that translates into something that is audible for the audience is another matter entirely and not really the point of this video. Anyway, while I was recording these ligatures, this was my general impression of the impact they had on my sound. While I was in the studio, the pink gold was a little too dark for me. The gold, black, and silver were all within the realm of acceptability for me, with each one getting slightly brighter than the next, but the pewter felt way too bright. Listening back, the differences aren't nearly as striking as I originally felt when recording them, and I really only hear hints of what I originally heard while I was in the studio. In the end, I don't think I could go wrong with any of them. The MO is just a well-designed ligature no matter what plating is on it. Now, I'm sure you will notice that the carbon wasn't on that chart, and that's because for me, it's kind of its own thing. After trying it, I was talking to David Gould, and I was struggling to describe just how neutral or little of an impact the ligature actually had on my sound. And that's when he told me that Vandoren themselves basically describe it as taking the ligature out of the equation. And I think that's very accurate. And so as far as I'm concerned, that makes it a pretty unique product in the ligature world. It was honestly a little disconcerting. I quickly came to the realization that I am used to and expect a ligature to add a certain something to the sound. And when that was missing, I definitely noticed. That being said, listening back, I still think it sounds good, and it doesn't sound too different than the other ligatures, though there is some kind of difference. Also to note, when playing on the ligature, I did feel like I could move slightly more air through the mouthpiece, as if everything had become slightly more open somehow. Another common comment I've heard from other people who have tried the ligature is that it allows your setup to respond more immediately. Now, that wasn't something that I personally noticed, and that's probably because I already play on a pretty light, responsive setup, but your mileage may vary depending on the rest of your setup. The last thing that I will say about the ligature is that it is physically very light. I know it is made of tough stuff, carbon fiber and titanium posts, but the actual texture of the carbon fiber feels very paperish, and it's actually lighter than a piece of paper, which is pretty insane. So in the end, did I pick one up? Well, to be honest, even if all the ligatures were priced exactly the same, and I was in the market for a new ligature, I probably would have walked out the studio door with just a standard black MO ligature. That is not to say that I think the carbon fiber isn't worth it. It's just not what I'm personally looking for in a ligature. For me, it's basically a one of one. And while I haven't tried the other carbon fiber ligatures on the market, I find it hard to believe that you will find a ligature that is as neutral or has less of an impact on your setup's overall sound. I think some people would be thrilled to have that extreme neutrality, but I imagine others will feel like me and will look for something that has a little bit more of an impact on your setup's overall sound, at least behind the instrument. People, of course, might also enjoy the changed airflow or the potentially sped up response, but for me, on that day with that reed and that mouthpiece, I just preferred how the black MO felt and sounded more. So those are my thoughts. Let me know if you heard any difference down in the comments below, and if so, which ligature was your favorite. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy practicing.